Hi everyone, good Thursday morning and welcome to GoLocal Live. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for tuning in for our show today with Dr. Susan Dargan at the Providence College School of Continuing Education, an expert in the sociology of work. Now, if you join us every other Thursday, we talk about the School of Continuing Education, and today looking particularly at the science of work. Dr. Dargan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, as we've continued to talk about, as we're coming out of the pandemic here, how it is an opportune time to go back to school and looking specifically, as your expertise does, at the actual sociology of work, let's talk a little bit about how that world has changed, where we're at in 2021, and the new issues that are now facing employers and employees in a hopefully post-pandemic world.
Well, there certainly has been a lot of change in the last year and a half based on the pandemic. And previous to the pandemic, we did have some telecommuters, but most work was done outside of the workplace. And we separated work and home. Home is the private sphere, and the workplace is the more public sphere of someone's life. Of course, we did have people working at home, mostly women taking care of children, but that wasn't paid. So unless they were nannies or something. So there's this separation that we're very used to, where a lot of us, we get on a train, we get in a car, we wear different clothing, we go to the office and do all of our work in a certain time frame. And then we return home, and that's our domestic time. And we separated those to some extent. I mean, there are always people who are able to do that. So for those of us who were working outside the home, when the pandemic began, almost all of us had to just work from home. And many of us weren't able to do that well because of our home situations. And we also had some people who weren't able to work remotely because they were needed. They had essential jobs. But I'll focus just on the ones who are able to work remotely for now. We got used to it because it was so long. When it started, we thought it would be, maybe a few months, but going on as long as it did, we developed patterns of work. And some of us found we liked working remotely more than we ever thought we would.
That is absolutely true. I'm telling you, I worked a lot from home, I was lucky to be able to do so. And as you said, that long amount of time, there are now concrete issues that both employers and employees really have to address as it pertains to the workplace, whether that's in an office or at home. So let's talk about healthcare, childcare, and even a work-life balance. Even though we're post-pandemic, there are now a new whole host of health concerns that the workplace has to consider moving forward.
Right. I mean, people are being told now, I know the mayor of Boston just told her staff that they were going to be back at City Hall very soon. And a lot of employees are really worried about that for a number of reasons. It seems to have happened more quickly at the end than we thought it would. I just got an email from Providence College today saying that if you're vaccinated on campus, you do not need to wear a mask anywhere on campus, which is a big change. So it's starting to really happen more quickly, and people are worried about health because children are not vaccinated yet. And so there's a risk, obviously. Even if you've been vaccinated, you have a child, you could get COVID from your unvaccinated child. And some children have serious health care issues if they get COVID also. So that's a concern. And parents are still concerned, will school shut down again? What will I do? That kind of thing. There are child care concerns. A lot of people have been managing with their small children at home while they're working. And they've been spending a lot less money on child care also. And they got used to that. So now they have to find child care if they're going to be going back full time. And some of them have learned that they can do their work remotely with small children in their homes. Some people haven't been able to do that.
It's sometimes a difficult work-life balance. But that was actually the third category I was going to talk about as well. I mean, are these going to have to be now definitive conversations moving forward? I mean, you talked about Providence College saying that masks aren't necessary on campus, but certain employers will say, you must come back to the workplace, or you don't have a job. How is this, people are kind of going to be wrestling new structures moving forward, with probably employees maybe looking for some autonomy to say, I might have liked this other construct. Maybe I might have to find a new job. So, there might be some rigid rules, there might be some leeway. Let's talk a little bit about how that might look and what people should consider, especially having conversations with employers.
I think autonomy is a huge factor in job satisfaction in general. And this is a time when people want some autonomy. So employers should be talking with workers about a plan, not necessarily dictating a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they do that, if they dictate a plan, they're likely to lose some employees, some valued employees. So what a lot of workplaces are doing is trying to think about hybrid work. Can people come in 2 or 3 days a week? How will that work for our business? If you have a forward-facing kind of business where you're dealing with people, obviously that's not going to work well in that virtual environment. But people do want some autonomy. Another issue related to autonomy and remote work is the surveillance that's been going on too. There's this artificial intelligence out there, and employers can measure how engaged you are with your equipment during a day. And some people are not crazy about that because they might be getting all of their tasks done, but just not the way that they would do it at the office.
100%.
Yeah.
And you raise a good point. As you said, it might be for employers to dictate workplace structures. As you said, you might lose some employees, and as you said, there are some ones that can't help it. Retail and things of that nature. Yeah. And a lot of people right now are considering, okay, maybe if they think that that's not the fit for them, maybe it's time for a new career change. Now, the School of Continuing Education at Providence College really has some career paths that are in demand right now. So let's talk about the healthcare field, teaching and sociologists going into your wheelhouse. So let's talk a little bit about where the jobs are in healthcare and how going back to school at the School of Continuing Education can upskill you to be prepared for jobs in that field.
Well, there's a huge demand and an increased interest too in many different healthcare occupations. And Providence has a number of programs, and I recommend that people go to the website and look up those programs. I'm not necessarily an expert on all of them.
We'll put links up when you watch and come back later.
I do think, I've seen a lot of students who say, I want to be a nurse now. They've gone and they've gotten a bachelor's degree in something else, and they want to be a nurse. And because they recognize the importance of the work that nurses do. So that's an area, it's just any area in healthcare is going to see growth. There's a demand for teachers in certain areas
absolutely.
Too.
Yes.
There's ESL teachers who can speak 2 languages. That's a huge one. And again, Providence has these great education programs. There's also, during the pandemic, we also had a racial reckoning. And I have seen and read about a lot of college students becoming more socially aware, more oriented towards social justice, and wanting to be involved in nonprofits and things like that to, change the world kind of a thing. And, again, at Providence, we have in the evening program, the social science major that can lead to many different careers in nonprofit social justice kind of work. The other thing that I wanted to mention too is with the racial reckoning that happened during the pandemic, there is going to be more of a push for social workers who will go out with police officers on calls, particularly calls when there is a person who is mentally ill, a person who is using substances and knows how to de-escalate and get that person the right kind of care and treatment that they need, instead of a more aggressive approach, and I'm not to say that all police officers don't do that, because I know some who do. But so I think we'll see a real interest in law enforcement as it relates to social work.
Absolutely.
And I've known some students over the past 6 months who were going to go get their MBAs after college, and now they said, no, I think I want to work for a nonprofit. I'm going to go back and look at those programs.
Do we think that's maybe the Dr. Dargan effect?
Maybe. I hope so. The courses I teach, I just finished teaching social movements in the evening program at Providence College. And as part of that course, I have them watch the entire Eyes on the Prize documentary series. And I had several students in the class who said to me, why did I never hear about this? Why did I never hear about this
Oh,
history? And they got
fantastic.
kind of fired up in the class. And one
Oh,
of them said she wants to be a teacher now. Um, so yeah, it's really an interesting time to look at how people are going to change their careers. And
and
there's
you hit on that key point. Change. A lot of folks are looking for a change in career. Um, and for the person who might be watching right now, I mean, what's your advice for folks who feel a little uncertain, might have an interest area that they want to pursue? What would you say to that person who's watching that thinks maybe going back to school might be something I want to pursue?
Well, I always tell people to pursue their passion. If you're really passionate about something, you're going to do well
Mm-hmm.
in that field. I was going to be a lawyer myself. That's what I thought I was going to be. And then I got really passionate about sociology, and I did better in those classes because I was so invested in it. And I recommend that for everybody, not just to think about the job, but to think about the subject matter that
Mm-hmm.
really interests you, and think about what you want to do in the world.
Well, fantastic. Dr. Susan Dargan at the Providence College School of Continuing Education, we very much appreciate your taking the time to join us today, talk about thinking about new career paths, and especially looking at work and the sociology of work. Dr. Dargan, we'll talk soon, and we'll be back on GoLocal Live in short order here. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel.